Thanks for tuning in and welcome to Engage MH, the Power of Mixing podcast, Moet Hennessy's first portfolio show. I'm Angela Sauvé, Director of Trade Engagement, and I'm thrilled to introduce my hosts, Laura Catlaw and Rich Buchanan, Senior Managers of Trade Engagement.
Hi, guys.
I'm happy to be here.
Pleasure
this is
to be
super
here
exciting.
with you.
We do. Speaking of exciting, we have an exciting show planned ahead for you today that by the end of, we hope you'll be looking at the world through rose-colored glasses. That's right. We're going to talk about all things rosé. Hashtag Rosé All Day.
Rosé all day.
In this episode 2, we're going to be shaking it up with Paul Chevalier, Vice President of Chateau, and I'm very excited to learn how to craft a Whispering Angel Strawberry Belvedere Spritz.
Can we skip to that part?
Yeah, can we just... Yeah.
Let's just skip to that part.
I'm going to change the schedule here.
It sounds delicious. Just even saying it makes you smile. I'm very excited to learn how to craft this experience and try this cocktail.
Yeah.
But before we get to the cocktail, I have a story for you.
Okay.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Let me tell you a
Tell
story.
us.
I like stories.
I have a story about the fascinating history of rosé wine. And did you know that rosé is the oldest wine in history?
I did not.
So the story began on the shores of the Mediterranean exactly 2,600 years ago. It's when the Phoenicians traveled to Greece from the south of France, where they founded Marseille. I've been there, right?
Nice
I've been
town.
there, right?
Nice town.
And they introduced grapevines to the region, thus created France's first ever and oldest vineyards. And then 4 centuries later, in 200 BC, exactly, when the Romans settled on this Provençal land, they developed viticulture and created and formed the Provincia Romana, which is now known today as Provence. Beautiful place. So the first wines that were produced there were actually all light-colored wines, and people would combine red and white grapes to achieve less concentrated wines, which I think is really interesting. Yeah. And these wines were really a rosé color, making rosé the first commonly enjoyed wine by humans. I think that's fascinating.
Ever in the world.
Ever in the world.
First ever in the world.
Period. Mic drop.
That is a mic drop
Don't drop
moment.
the mics, though.
I won't.
They're very nice.
So this rosé of long ago, it wasn't really like the delightful poolside libation that we know and love today. The ancients actually made rosé in a manner today that many wine enthusiasts would scoff at. They added water to their wine. I know.
I'm scoffing.
Why?
I know.
I scoff at that.
Scoff away. So there's several reasons for this, but the most memorable one is that water was honestly unsafe to drink, and so by adding wine and water together, it made the water safe. I think that's fascinating.
We should pick up that practice today.
I know. I think the cocktail's sort of that idea, right?
It's fine now. We're in New York City. We have great water.
That's true.
So after the fall of the Roman Empire, wine developed again in Provence, and the influence of the great monks in the region made this wine the drink of choice for royalty. So rosé was associated with royalty in the region, including kings, queens, and aristocrats alike. And I think the interesting thing about rosé is, though, it was the first, commonly consumed wine. It was the drink of choice for royalty. Its popularity waxed and waned over the years, right? So there's been decades where rosé has been considered kind of a simple, cheap, or just kind of cheerful wine, in a box. But now, rosé wines are the fastest growing wine category in the world, globally. And I think that's fascinating. And that's thanks to a few very passionate winemakers, including Chateau Sasha Lachine, who changed the rosé game with pioneering wine-making techniques to craft innovative rosé blends. So rosés like Whispering Angel, Rock Angel, Garous, these are celebrated for their complexity, their depth, and their drinkability. They're delicious. You can't have just one sip. So, and they also pair amazingly well with food. So that is the history of rosé in a nutshell.
Delightful. Thank you for the story. It was brilliant.
So now that we know a little bit more about rosé, its history, which is fascinating. I said it was going to be a fascinating story. Let's talk about 3 things you need to know about rosé.
So
about
this time
Chateau
just
Desclans.
3 things.
Yes.
Okay.
And let's talk about Chateau Desclans, right? It's one of the most important brands, especially for rosé in the world.
I've got 2.
Oh, okay.
I have 2 ready to go,
Fantastic.
y'all.
Okay.
Number 1, the location, Provence. If you're looking at a map, Chateau Desclans is due north of Saint-Tropez. I think it's 25 kilometers. I don't know how I know it just as kilometers and not miles, but I think that's an exact fact. And what's amazing is this terrain, the terroir, the soil, it's very diverse. As you're driving through this region, you see, different outcroppings of different types of stone. At Chateau Desclans, when you're walking up, there's a hill right across the street from the main chateau. And you'll see different soil types at the bottom, and then the mid-range, and then at the top of the hill. And at the top of the hill, you can turn, and you'll see the Mediterranean Sea off in the distance. It's a magical place, but from a terroir point of view, it's very diverse, super fascinating from a wine point of view. My second point, I had 2, pronunciation. Now, we made up I know this is a vodcast and a podcast, so visually, I don't have this in front of me right now, but we have a great little visual to how to pronounce this. And it's basically a desk, like you're at school with a desk, and then the lawn, your grass in front of your house, the lawn. So it's Chateau Desclans. Chateau Desclans.
Chateau Desclans.
Desclans.
That's actually very helpful. Thank
There you go. Exactly.
I've been mispronouncing it.
There's my 2 points.
Those were great.
Laura,
2
do you have a
points.
third?
All right, Laura,
I
no
do,
pressure.
actually. Well, I feel, thank you. I'm very, very fascinated by Sacha and the background, his background. Born in Bordeaux, worked in every single job one could have in the winemaking industry. And his acquisition of the chateau, to me, embodies a truly Moet Hennessy attitude, which is just bold pioneering ambition. And thank God he had this will to succeed and this belief in creating the number 1 rosé, because if he didn't have that core value, I don't think the 3 of us would be sitting here talking about this, right? It just some stats that I pulled, right? It's the number 1 rosé brand in the world, distributed in 108 countries. It's a very exciting moment, and I think he is a very exciting part of that journey.
It's interesting thinking about Sacha's history, because isn't it true that it wasn't easy, right? A lot of people didn't believe in his vision to create a luxury, rosé, the world's best rosé.
And in Provence as well, right? So the faith in did this region as a whole have what it took to do this? So I think he embodies so much of what we believe in as a brand.
Absolutely. Well, now, thank you. That was fascinating. And now, let's talk about a bottle of rosé. I think it'd be a good idea to learn behind the bottle about Whispering Angel. Rich, are you up for it?
Yeah, I think I can do this. I wanted to first talk about the name. I remember the first time hearing about Whispering Angel, I was like, what's the name about? And what's fascinating is when you visit the chateau, you'll walk through the kitchen, and off the kitchen is a chapel, as we all have.
It's true.
Off our kitchens.
I don't have anything to say on that.
Yeah. And so the interesting thing is, at the top of the altar in this chapel are 2 little angels, and they seem to be whispering. And it's actually, when you look at the label, those are the same 2 little angels whispering right there on top of the altar. And the story was they used the chapel as their kind of tasting room when they were building the blends for all the Chateau Desclans wines. And the joke was that the 2 cherubs were up there whispering the whole time about them, and so that's where the name came from. But when you visit the chapel, you'll see those 2 little angels up top. And then just very briefly about the wine itself, what I think is so special about Chateau Desclans and Whispering Angel especially is, these are completely dry rosés, 0 sugar. We can talk about all the various fruit notes and floral, but to me, it's about this concentration that's on the palates. There's an intensity to the flavor, to the texture, And it's a word that the team uses quite a bit, concentration. And it's a much easier thing to talk about when we have a glass in front of us when we're tasting it. But to me, that is that key thing that sets us apart from other rosés in Provence and other parts of the world.
That sounds delicious.
Yeah.
Makes me want a glass of rosé.
I do. I was thinking that as you were talking, actually.
My water in my mug is not working. So.
What is the saying that Sasha is quoted frequently about? Which is something like in the Esclon Valley, angels whisper.
Yes.
If you drink this wine, you might hear them. And if you visit us, you might see them. And up next is Shake It Up, our Q&A with our special guest today, who is dialing in live from France. We are so excited to welcome Paul Chevalier, Vice President of Chateau d'Esclans. Bonjour, bonsoir, Paul.
All right, bonsoir, and happy to be here.
We are so excited to have you join to talk about all things rosé. Rosé all day, right? That's the hashtag.
S'il vous plaît.
So I'm going to start off by asking you a pretty fun question because I think this is so intriguing and it tells us so much about someone. And the question is, if you could have a glass of rosé with any historical figure, who would you choose and why?
Well, I always wanted to meet, I don't know if you know or not, but I went to school in Champagne and started my career there. So I would have loved to have met Madame Clicquot because she's such a historical figure and we could cheers together.
That is a wonderful, excellent choice. She's very popular on our podcast series. So you have a fascinating background and one of the coolest jobs, to be honest. You are Mr. Rosé. So tell us about your background and what was your journey that led you to the #1 selling, still wine rosé in America, Chateau d'Esclans.
Well, it's a bit of a long story, but to keep things simple. So, as I said, I went to university in Champagne, France, many years ago, and became a winemaker. And then when I finished school, I started with Veuve Clicquot, as I'd mentioned, and being as part of one of the 3 of the winemaking team at that time. And it was pretty much the same year that we acquired Cloudy Bay in New Zealand and actually in Cape Mentel. So off I go to New Zealand, probably because I spoke a little bit better English than everybody else. And it was just fantastic. So it was really a sort of an experience of understanding, starting in Champagne, traveling around the world. From there, I went to Burgundy, to Bordeaux, and ended up back in America. And the journey with Chateau d'Esclans and Whispering Angel began in 2006 when I reconnected with a gentleman, Sacha Lachine, who had this idea of making the greatest rosés in the world. So pretty much I became his sort of U.S. agent, and we started from a very, very small base and grew it to something quite big in what you see today. So it's a little bit of let's say a rosé renaissance, a rosé revolution, and a rosé journey. I guess life is a journey, and we continue that journey.
It's interesting, Paul, because your history is so intertwined with the rise in popularity of rosé. If you Google rosé in the United States, do you know that your name pops up quite frequently?
Probably, yeah. And I'm probably wearing pink pants. Oh, sorry, Nantucket Reds, to be specific.
So speaking of rosé and this rosé renaissance, what are some of the sweeping trends that you're seeing in the rosé category in the United States?
Well, it's interesting, as you know, rosé came from an extremely small base, not the best reputation for sure, and really is continues to develop. And it's not just, again, we can talk about the U.S., but what's interesting in Europe and specifically in France, where I am now, is if you think about traditional wine consumers. Obviously, red wine has always been sort of king, and white wine maybe queen. And over the past 15 years or so, rosé wine consumption, and this is a true statistic, has surpassed a few years ago white wine consumption in France, and as of last summer, rosé consumption has surpassed both white wine and now red wine consumption in France. So think about that. Think about all the people who drink in France anyway, Bordeaux's and Burgundies and Chateauneuf-du-Pape and so forth, all the great red wines. There's actually more people drinking rosé. So if that were to happen someday, it hasn't happened yet in America, but if it even comes close, then it will really be a rosé revolution.
I mean, that's fascinating. The trends and what you see elsewhere, it usually ends up happening right in the United States. And I know rosé is my drink of choice.
I'm a dedicated member of the rosé revolution, so I carry the banner proudly.
Yeah, and what else we're seeing is historically, and because of where we're located in Provence, is rosé has often been associated with sort of summertime holidays and vacation and along the coastline and beaches and so forth. But little by little, this rosé in the summertime has the seasons, the shoulder seasons, if you like, have expanded. And really, it's becoming almost rosé 365. So all year round, not just summer, into the fall, into the holidays, and then in the winter, we do a lot of après-ski activations now. So we're seeing a lot of things going on. Ski season is sort of over, but as we're getting to the end of it, in the Northern Hemisphere anyway, and then back into spring, where we are now. So it's really full circle, and that's also quite amazing. So rosé is no longer just this sort of summertime fun drink.
It's true. I do enjoy rosé all seasons. Truly rosé all day.
And why not? If you think about it, is you obviously drink red wine all year round, but you do drink white wine or champagne in the winter. And it wasn't that long ago. I remember as a younger person is that most people didn't drink white wine in the winter. So that's how things change. So I can guarantee that will happen very, very soon with rosé.
In the rosé category, I know overall the industry is seeing this trend of premiumization and trading up, which leads me to this question for you, which is Provence rosé. It's a special rosé, right? And how can you tell us how it's unique, Provence rosé, to other rosés in the world?
Yeah, it's actually a very good question. I think it has a lot to do with a couple of things. Perhaps it's where we are geographically, so climate-wise, and a little bit of terroir. And I think it's directly related to the grapes which have grown in Provence for centuries. So our style of rosé, and I always have a glass with me. So our style of rosé is as you can see, the sort of light and pale shade of pink, right? It's not pink; it's more salmony. And that style is very, very difficult to produce with the sort of fuller, heavier styles of red grape varietals being, Cabernet or Sangiovese or Malbec and so forth, because of the thickness of the skins and so forth. So I think the sort of the reputation of what we do in Provence has a lot to do with the grapes that grow there. Very consistent sort of warm climate. I wouldn't say it's excessively hot. It's not quite as hot as California and other places. And the terroirs which we have, which are a little bit more on the sort of clay and gravelly and sort of rocky and so forth. And the combination of all of them together produce the styles of these rosés from Provence. I would almost sort of draw a comparison with champagne, but perhaps versus sparkling wine. The terroirs which are in Champagne, the geographic location of the climate, and the grape varieties which are used there make a very, very unique style. Now, method champenoise and things which have been transplanted and transported throughout the world, some great wines which are produced, but they don't quite taste like what you get in Champagne. And I think it's quite similar in Provence, and I think that's quite interesting. Could it be done? Theoretically, I suppose. Hasn't been done yet. Maybe that will be a future project. But for now, no. It's Provence remains the not only the leader, but sort of that special place that everything is essentially pink. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, is what we produce today in Provence is something like either 92 or 93% of all the wines in Provence are actually rosé. So we don't actually make a lot of red wine or white wine to begin with.
Experts in rosé, and I know I love a beautiful rosé from Provence, and my favorite obviously comes from Chateau d'Esclans. So can you tell us how Chateau d'Esclans is unique in the rosé category?
Well, there's a couple of things. So we're in the valley of Esclans, which was owned way back in the 12th century by the Lord Gérard de Villeneuve, and the Seigneur, as we say, and that's we're in the Highlands. So what I always explain to people is a lot of the vineyards in Provence are quite close to Saint-Tropez along the coastline, and the soil types which are there are a little bit sandier, which produce a sort of a lighter style. I don't mean light in color, but lighter in flavor. And our soil types up in the Highlands are a little bit. They enable us to produce a sort of a little fuller and richer sort of style. And then, so I think that's one of the key differences. Also, Chateau d'Esclans is known for its innovation. And this was, again, the idea of Sacha Lachine back in 2006, wanted to make the greatest rosés in the world, and put his thinking cap on. He said, how am I going to do it? So he partnered with the famous flying French winemaker, Patrick Léon, who brought this innovation and technology to the property of doing all sorts of things, of, picking with using nitrogen gas and destemming and electronic eye sorting machines and fermentations and oak barrels and many other techniques of innovation, which never really had been used in Provence. And the result was a new style or a new generation of rosé, which sort of sprung out of all of this. And I think that's what's really kind of cool. And there's also a portfolio. To be honest, is most rosé producers in Provence produce maybe one rosé or sometimes two, but we have a whole portfolio of 6, actually now 7 different rosés which we produce at the property, and that's really interesting. So it's almost a welcoming to the wine community. So we welcome all generations, younger, older, with different styles, and we're trying to keep everybody within the family, I guess is the word. So it's and we really believe this, as I said earlier, the journey, and our vocation through education of rosé is to take everyone on a rosé journey, and it can start when we're very, very young. I mean, not young, but young adults, and continues throughout your whole life, and trying to produce these different styles of rosés at Chateau d'Esclans.
I love that you describe it as your rosé journey, right? And the Chateau d'Esclans portfolio, there's a rosé for every moment, every occasion. It's incredible. Can you talk us through the portfolio, starting with the beach?
Sure. So it's really the again, starting from the beach, which is, I would say, more of our maybe user friendly, and hence the name as well, and it's sustainable because we're doing a great partnership with Surfrider and beach cleanups and so forth, and no plastic in the ocean. But it's really about putting yourself in the shoes. This is the way I think about it. And not everybody grows up in the vineyards of Bordeaux or Napa Valley and those sort of places. So if you don't know anything about wine and you don't know anything about rosés, we're going to take you on that journey. And the journey starts with the beach. It's really easy to drink. It's quite fruity. It's quite light. All of our wines are very, very dry, so literally 0 sugar. And then we sort of, as we take you on that journey, we go up the hill together, sometimes literally, through the vineyards, from the beach to Whispering Angel, to Rock Angel, and then through the other wines at the estate portfolio. And as we do go up the hill or up the portfolio, if you like, the wines become fuller, richer, more body, a little bit more opulent, more going on in the glass, if you like, until the very, very top, which is the oldest part of our vineyards, called the Garous, which is considered to be pretty much the greatest rosé in the world. So starting with something which is relatively simplistic, a little bit playful. Think about a beach. You don't even need a corkscrew because it has a Stelvin closure, going all the way to something which is Garous, which is the most expensive rosé in the world, and complexity and a little bit of collectability and all those types of things. So really, as I said, it crosses all barriers, at the same time remains approachable, which is kind of what rosé is all about. And most importantly is satisfaction. And I think that's what was kind of missing in a lot of rosés in the past, because maybe rosés were a little wishy-washy, or a little light. Maybe rosé was kind of an afterthought. People weren't really making that much rosé, or they were producing red wine, and they would just made a little bit of rosé to bleed off their tanks and make the red wine a little better, a little bit more concentrated. So, but by focusing with with Sasha and team on a true portfolio of very specific styles, it became important for us to use this portfolio as an educational tool to just share our passion, number one, and just continue to educate the world about rosé. And that's, I think, that's how the portfolio works, and that's how we should see it, which is really, really interesting. It doesn't exist. The other wine rosé brands don't really do that. So we're kind of trailblazing, I guess, in the world of rosé.
Truly, Chateau d'Esclans truly is a trailblazer, a pioneer. You've shaken up the rosé category. Truly. So
Yes.
we have a question for you, and this is for you, right? So
Okay.
you've had an incredible career. So what's one lesson in your career, and maybe even in your current role, that has taught you something that you think everyone should learn? What would that thing be? At some point in their life, what should they know?
I'm gonna say two things because I like to be different. Is number one is I will say within obviously the Whispering Angel and the whole project, but Chateau d'Esclans is you do have to accept that people will say no. And trust me, and when we first started with Whispering Angel, there was a lot of no's, as in, no, we don't want your wine. No, it's too expensive. No, we don't drink rosé, and all of the above. So you have to kind of get over that, which is not always easy in your everyday life when somebody says no. So you have to get over negativity. And I think more importantly is maybe what I've learned recently, obviously with the alliance and the partnership with Mo Hennessy, I think, which is a great thing, is also a little bit more about diversity and being open. I grew up in this wine world in France, which is pretty closed. I mean, working even within the champagne houses, Bordeaux is a very tight-knit community. I can guarantee it. My family are from Bordeaux. So, and it's not about sharing. It's not about inclusivity at all. And I think what I'm learning and what we're trying to put into place today is that why can't we be inclusive? And if there's one wine that is really inclusive, I believe it's rosé. And I think rosé can open a lot of doors to a lot of different people, a lot of different lifestyles, and sharing and so forth. And that is given me a lot of self-satisfaction more recently. So other than the wine's good, is being able to share it. So
Beautifully said. Magnifique. Well, now it's time for you to get in the hot seat. It's time for flambé. Are you ready?
Okay, crêpe Suzette.
Exactly.
All right. So, Paul, are you ready to be flambéed?
Okay.
Okay, so here's what we've got. We've got some questions coming at you. Don't stress too much about it. Just go with your gut instinct, but it's a little bit of a chance to get to...
I think I need a drink.
You might need a drink. Maybe have one more. Just in case. Yeah. All right, let's jump in. 3, 2, 1. Champagne flute or white wine glass?
White wine glass.
I thought you would say that. Favorite TV show?
I Dream of Jeannie.
Oh man, I love I Dream of Jeannie.
Choice.
A beautiful costume. Didn't she wear pink? It kind of matched your rosacea.
I just like astronauts in outer space and all that.
All right, a very serious question for you now. Hot dog or hamburger?
Hamburger.
All right, here's one for you. Whispering Angel by the pool or Rock Angel in the club?
Oh, Rock Angel in the club.
Rock Angel in the club.
I think all eyes on us.
All eyes on us. I love it. What is the favorite part of your day? Your favorite part of your day?
It is the morning for sure. I'm definitely a morning person, and it's about when you first see the light.
Ooh, so romantic. LV sneakers or Berluti loafers?
Berluti loafers.
Berluti loafers.
Yes.
And what is your favorite city in the world?
Probably Paris.
Paris. And finally, your last flambé question. What is your go-to toast or cheers?
Go-to toast or cheers is, as we say in French, santé, but on y va. I'm a big fan of on y va. On y va means let's go. Journey of life, on y va. Places to go. People to see, things to do.
Cheers.
Excellent.
Well, you've been
Cheers.
flambéed. Thank you.
Merci.
And thank you, Paul, for joining us from France. It's been such a pleasure to have you on. And santé.
And we'll see you all soon at the magical land of Rosé, Chateau d'Esclon.
And now it's time for Up, Neat, and On the Rocks with our amazing special guest, Brian Stewart, National Trade Advocacy Manager. So, Brian, we have something very special in store today. We are so excited to learn from you how to craft this incredible cocktail that's in front of us, which I know has Whispering Angel, strawberries, Belvedere, and it's a spritz. So what do we call this magical concoction?
Right, so I'm calling this one Angels in the Rye Field. I mean, it plays in perfectly to the fact that, of course, we have a beautiful bottle of Whispering Angel, one of the most glamorous and perfect bottles of rosé on the planet. And then you have the beautiful Polish rye that is Belvedere. So it just kind of goes hand in hand. And this is a fantastic cocktail for a lot of reasons. And being part of Moet Hennessy, the thing that I've always liked the most about making cocktails in this particular portfolio is that as an artist, you can use paints, and we all get to use blue. But then sometimes you get handed a special box of paints, and those paints are just much more fantastic than anything you've ever seen before. That is our portfolio. The bottles actually do the heavy lifting for you, so you don't have to overcomplicate cocktails. I have a pretty simple rule when it comes to cocktails. Keep it simple. The fact of the matter is if you put 17 ingredients in a cocktail and you can only taste 5 of them, then you have way too many ingredients in your cocktail. So I love this for a lot of reasons. The Whispering Angel has this beautiful red fruit and this glorious floral note to it. It has this delicate dryness to it that's very welcoming and not aggressive. And then you have Belvedere, which is a vodka, and people think that vodka has no flavor. Not true here. We have a beautiful vanilla right up front, star anise in the middle to complement the floral notes of our wine here, and then a bright pepper finish to kind of complement that dryness to the wine. So in not complicating this and allowing my paints to do the heavy lifting, all we're going to do is add a little bit of some fresh lemon juice and a strawberry puree that I made last night. I think people think strawberry purees are just like, this is scary, I'm just going to buy one. What I did is I sliced up some strawberries, I sprinkled a little bit of sugar over them, I allowed it to sit in my fridge overnight, creating kind of like an oleosaccharin that sugar draws out all those essential oils and concentrates the strawberry flavor, and you're left with this bright, gorgeous strawberry notes. I just took those strawberries, put them in a blender, and there it is. It's going to last me a long time, right? So let's make the drink.
Yes.
Let's do it.
So normally, I think a lot of times people would say this is something that you could shake because blah, blah. I'm going to stir this in the glass. I think it has a little bit more of a technique to it. And also, I'd always tell people to start with your cheap ingredients, which would normally be your citrus, but I don't want to lose any of this beautiful strawberry puree. So I'm going to start with the strawberry puree. And we're going to do a 1/2 ounce. I'm going to do that to technically kind of leave this a little tart. The strawberry is giving me all my sweetness, but just to make sure that we're not losing any of that strawberry that's in the jigger there, we're going to add our lemon juice here.
That's
we're
a
going
great
to go 3/4 of an ounce right in there. Now, the fun part. We're going to take our beautiful Polish rye, which is Belvedere, and we're going to add just 1 ounce into our jigger here as opposed to our normal 1.5 ounces. And the reason for that is we're adding a little bit of wine to this cocktail. So you always want to drink responsibly. Very important. And then we're going to take our beautiful rosé wine. Sorry to put liquid all over your glass, but I don't normally make cocktails sitting down. For the folks not watching, I am sitting down making a drink. And we're just going to do 2 ounces of our rosé Whispering Angel. And you can smell it's getting floral already.
It smells delicious.
Right. And then I brought my own ice. I make my own ice wherever I go. And we're going to go ahead and just take a little bit of ice here. These are not sound effects, folks. We're actually, again, oh, thanks. Get that ice out of there. We're just put a little bit of ice in the glass here. Not too much, but enough to fill the glass.
That is beautiful ice.
And thank you. And then we're going to add just a little bit of some soda water to add a little effervescence. And because we built this on top of each other, you definitely want to give this a little bit of a stir. And then for the garnish, we're just going to take a strawberry where I've taken off the green of the strawberry and have added a little bit of rosemary to kind of give you a lot of aromatics. A garnish should act as the first sense that you experience in a cocktail, not a decoration. It should actually serve a purpose. So if it's just there to look pretty, you're wasting garnish. But there you have it, the beautiful Angels in the Rye Field.
What do you love about this cocktail?
I love everything about this cocktail, but mostly, I love the dryness to this cocktail. It has this very outstanding dry quality to it that, again, it's not offensive in any way. It actually makes you come back for more. You want to experience it over and over again. And the strawberries, again, this is something, a pro tip, taste your ingredients. Everybody thinks that because we see strawberries in the supermarket year-round that they're always delicious. Strawberries are out of season right now. They're a little bit tart. So when I was making my puree, I had to adjust that with my lemon juice, kind of backing off the lemon juice and etc. So taste your ingredients. But this has this delicate fruit note to it. And the other thing that I really truly love about this cocktail is it highlights both Whispering Angel and Belvedere in the most glamorous way. You're experiencing all the flavor that all the hard work that went into these bottles in a single cocktail, and it just works.
It's very exciting.
It's so beautiful.
The garnish is super clever. For
Thanks.
the folks listening to this, they need to go find the video version because this is a super great little garnish. So awesome.
Yeah, it's great. Again, it has those beautiful rich notes of the strawberry, but you get those aromatics of the rosemary right up front. It's just inviting. It's kind of drawing you in. That's a little bit more of a warm weather cocktail. Sure, absolutely. You might not be drinking these in December. But, I mean, if you want to be transferred to a warm tropical place on a beach somewhere when it's snowing outside, this is your cocktail.
What I love about it is I feel I could make it. Like, I could make it in my home, living my best life, watching a fabulous movie, having this moment of romance all by myself. So that's what I love. The doability of this cocktail, it speaks to me.
It's so I would order this on the menu. One, the name is amazingly clever, and if I saw this going past me, it looks like a sunset in a glass.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
I mean, red has this intriguing color to it that when most people see it, they want to be a part of it. But you're right. This is a very simple cocktail, and it can be made at home. And this is something you can certainly, my wife always likes to say, I would definitely pay $20 for this. But it can be ordered in a restaurant. It has that fancy capability. It's definitely something that can be done at home. But again, the true thing that is lifting this cocktail is Whispering Angel and Belvedere. They are doing the heavy lifting because they're made to perfection, and the beautiful notes of their territory are coming through in this most elegant way, and it comes together in a glass, and that's what cocktails are all about. It's about the power of mixing.
And with that, we'll raise a glass. Cheers to Rosé All Day.
Cheers.
Cheers, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in to Rosé All Day, and be sure to follow us on YouTube as well as Instagram @EngageMH. And we look forward to seeing you on our next episode.